Hello everyone, my name is Jackson Dong, and today I'm going to talk about depressions. Before I begin, I want to briefly explain why I chose this topic. I became interested in psychology after seeing someone close to me struggle with depression during his adolescence, especially in a context where mental health was not taken seriously and emotional distress was often dismissed. Today, I want to explain depression not as a personal weakness, but as something that is closely connected to how adolescents develop in psychological, cognitive, and social ways. The goal of this lecture is to help you understand why depression has become more common during adolescence and how knowledge of development can help adults and help adolescents respond in ways that actually work. This lecture is not about diagnosis, it is about understanding mechanisms behind depressions. First of all, what is depression? Depression is an internalizing disorder, meaning that the distress is directed inward rather than expressed through disruptive behavior. According to the World Health Organization, like depression is characterized by persistent low mood and loss of interest or pleasures over time. And we can see that in adolescence, depressions often include something like persistent sadness and emotional numbness, and also include something like low motivations and low self-esteem. Developmental research shows that depression is the most common psychological disturbance during adolescence, and that symptom increase during this period rather than appearing randomly. The key question is why adolescence? We can see the data from CDC shows the rate of depression increased sharply during adolescence, especially high rate among teenagers girl. And at the same time, many adolescents experiencing depressive symptoms do not seek for help, often because they do not recognize their experiences as depression, and also because they fear of being judged by the parents or being dismissed by the teachers. And the reason why I hold this presentation is not only for introduce the mechanism behind depression, but also encourage every adolescent to seek for help when you need it. And the first things I want to talk about is the psychological development. Adolescence is a period of major psychological restructuring. One of the most important developmental tasks during this stage is identity formations. And teenagers are no longer defining themselves primarily through family role, but instead identity become tied to achievement, peer approval, and internal standards. And as a result, self-worth become conditional. Like for example, in childhood, a children might be happy or may think something like, "I'm okay because my parents think I'm okay." But in adolescence, the thing change. Like self-worth become performance based. Like it based on grade, it based on appearance, it based on popularity, and it based on success. When self-worth is conditional, failure feel personal. Like a bad grade of social rejections is no longer just a setback, it becomes something like evidence of personal failure. And another key, that is why emotional distress in adolescence become tied to identity, which significantly increase vulnerability to depression. Another key psychological features of adolescence is the need for autonomy and respect. Like teenagers are highly sensitive to being judged or being dismissed or being morally judged. Like when adults respond to a depressive symptom with face like you are overacting or someone or everyone feel this way, it will often increase withdrawal. Not because adolescents are immature, but because their developmental need for autonomy is violated. Like meeting adolescents where they are psychologically means like taking emotional seriously, and second, avoiding like moral judgment, and third, like recognizing like this distract is tied to identity development. And the second thing I want to talk about is cognitive development. And cognitively, like adolescence is marked in major change in thinking. Like teenagers development the ability of abstract and self-reflective thought, and this allows for deeper understanding, but also deeper self-evaluations. Yeah, and developmental like psychology shows that this cognitive like change increase introspection. It also increase like the self criticism and rumination. We need to mention about the ruminations because it is very linked to depressions. Rumination is especially important and it is not problem solving. It is a bad way of thinking. Like, for example, problem solving sounds like I did it bad. What can I do? What can I change next time? But for rumination, it sounds like why am I like this? Why am I so failure? I will never succeed. Something like that. Ruminations is actually a bad way of thinking things because adolescents are better at abstract thinking. They are also better at forming global conclusions. Like, unfailed tasks become unfailed. These cognitive patterns help explain why depression during adolescence often persist rather than resolving quickly. Like meeting adolescents where they are often like is understanding that thinking is more complex, no more dramatic, and helping them to like recognize ruminations, like shifting them from identity-based thinking to like something situational conclusion, situational explanation. For example, I'm bad, I'm a failure to something like maybe today's weather is not good, maybe just maybe the environment is not good for me today, something like that. And the last things I want to mention is social development. Social development is also very critical for like adolescent depressions. That is because during adolescence, peers become the primary reference group for self-esteem and belonging. Like the rejection, the social status feels intensely important. Like developmental research shows that peer rejections is one of the strongest social like factor during adolescence, and it is very strongly associated with depression. Adolescence also shows stronger emotional and biological response to social evaluations and rather than children. Yeah, children might be just, you know, ignore the peer evaluation, but adolescents are extremely sensitive to the peer evaluations. And teenagers experience depressions often withdraw, stop responding, and appear emotionally distant. Peer might misinterpret like this withdrawal as rejections or just like thinking about like disinterest, like leading to further isolation. Like, look at the graph I made. It is a depression feedback loop. And as you can see that first we have some depression thought and it will cause the lower self-esteem and increase rumination. And such could cause further like depressions and it become a bad loop and make like make adolescents feel like depressions. And meeting adolescents where they are socially means like recognizing withdrawal as a symptom, not a choice, and just reducing stigma and maintaining low pressures and social connections and social support matters more during adolescence, not less. They become more sensitive to rather than their childhood. And we can see that we talk about three factors. The first factor is psychological, and the second factor is cognitive. The third factor, like we talk about social factor. And depression in adolescence cannot be explained by any single factor. It is a combination of three factors: psychological identity development, cognitive ruminations, and social evaluations all intensify at the same time. And that's it for my presentation. Thank you for listening. And here's my reference.